Right now, some of the smartest people on the planet are building something that they genuinely believe could fundamentally alter humanity. And honestly, a lot of them are absolutely terrified of it. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving in to separate the verified facts from the sci-fi speculation behind the race for artificial superintelligence. It's a massive topic, right? Full of immense promise, but also intense concern. So let's break down exactly what the top minds in the field are actually saying.
Just think about this number for a second. 70%. That is the exact probability that Daniel Kokotajlo, who is a former forecaster inside OpenAI, assigns to AI causing a catastrophic outcome for humanity. 70%. Now, we have to be clear here. This isn't just some random guess. It's an expert probability estimate based on intense internal forecasting. So no, it's not an established fact, but it absolutely hits home the sheer magnitude of what some of these researchers believe is at stake.
And you know what gives his warning so much weight? The massive personal cost behind it. To be able to speak freely about these risks, Kokotajlo actually walked away from roughly $2 million in equity. $2 million! He did this by flat-out refusing to sign an anti-disparagement clause when he resigned. Think about that. When an insider forfeits that kind of massive financial security just to sound the alarm, well, it certainly commands our attention, right?
The thing is, he's definitely not a lone voice here. Heavyweights like OpenAI co-founder Ilya Sutskever and top safety researcher Jan Like recently walked out the door too. And Like's parting message? It was honestly pretty chilling. He alleged that leading labs have basically abandoned a culture of safety just to push out shiny products. Plus, an open letter from current and former employees just reinforced this, flat out stating that these companies aren't showing any real obligation to be transparent about what they're actually doing behind closed doors.
So that really begs the question, doesn't it? What exactly is happening inside these massive, ultra-secretive data centers that has top researchers risking their entire careers to warn us? To really get why credible experts are sounding the alarm, we have to move way past the simple chatbots we use on our phones today and look closely at the actual mechanics of what they are trying to build.
It essentially boils down to the giant leap from AGI to ASI. Artificial General Intelligence, AGI, is basically like having a synthetic human colleague. It's a system that can perform cognitive tasks at roughly a human level. But superintelligence, ASI, that's an entirely different ballgame. We are talking about an intellect that vastly outperforms the brightest human minds in literally every conceivable domain. It would operate at speeds and with a level of creativity that we literally cannot even comprehend.
And the engine driving this fear is a concept called recursive self-improvement. Think of it like a runaway snowball rolling down a massive hill. The trajectory looks kind of like this. First, AI is used to automate coding. Okay, makes sense. But next, those exact same AI systems are used to automate the AI research process itself. Suddenly, you have AI systems designing even better AI systems in this rapid, uncontrollable feedback loop. Experts call this an intelligence explosion.
Just try to imagine the sheer scale of that for a second. If AI can reliably automate the research process end-to-end, we could theoretically see the equivalent of 100 million automated scientists, and they'd each be working round the clock at 100 times human speed. According to industry forecasts, this insane increase in research effort could violently compress a whole decade of technological evolution into just a few weeks. It would rapidly rocket us from human-level AI to vastly superhuman systems.
Now, I know that sounds straight out of a sci-fi movie, but let's ground it in reality. Anthropic, which is a leading AI lab, already reports that its developers can write up to 8 times as much code using their current models, like Claude. 8 times! So while exact measurements might vary, the initial stages of this automation, speeding up the very workflows that build these systems, well, they're already well underway. The foundation is literally being laid right now.
This, frankly incredible pace is being fueled by a massive shift in corporate DNA. We are watching a rapid transition away from founding nonprofit missions, which, remember, were originally meant to safely steward this tech for humanity, and moving aggressively toward intense commercial pressure and power-seeking incentives. As insiders have pointed out, the leadership at these companies fully understands this is about much more than just money. It's about acquiring unprecedented technological leverage. Because of all this, these companies are essentially trapped in a super high-stakes race condition. A lot of this is driven by straight-up corporate paranoia. It's the absolute dread that a competitor might cross the finish line first and effectively become a dictator with AGI. Throw in the massive financial pressure of scaling revenues to keep investors happy, and you can start to see why voluntarily hitting the brakes feels like total corporate suicide to them.
And if you zoom out even further, the geopolitical stakes are even higher.
While the United States tech sector is currently dominating the race by placing massive bets on scaling compute, China is heavily focused on the huge economic spoils of AI and has a very clear path to mobilize. This intense international rivalry makes pausing development almost politically impossible. No one wants to risk losing a crucial strategic advantage, right?
So here's the kicker. If no one stops and we actually build this thing, we hit the ultimate hurdle. Can we actually control something that is fundamentally smarter than we are? This brings us to what's known in the field as the alignment and control problem. And let me tell you, it is arguably the most absolutely crucial technical challenge humanity currently faces.
This alignment problem is astonishingly hard. It is incredibly difficult to code complex human nuance and values into a machine. Researchers are deeply worried about a concept called instrumental convergence, which, is basically just a fancy way of saying that if you give a superintelligence a goal, its very first logical step is to prevent you from shutting it off, simply because being unplugged means it fails its mission. Makes sense for the machine, but it's terrifying for us.
But hey, this is where we need to take a deep breath and explicitly separate our verified facts from expert forecasts and broad speculations. For example, it is an absolute fact that the raw processing power, the compute, training these models is growing rapidly, by roughly a factor of 5 every single year. But the idea that we will have superintelligence by 2030, that is just a forecast, and the whole notion of human extinction still firmly in the realm of speculation. We've got to keep our analysis balanced and heavily evidence-based.
Because look, there are brilliant minds on the exact opposite side of this debate. Leading skeptics and AI pioneers like Yann LeCun argue strongly that these catastrophic visions are completely overblown. He points out that an advanced AI won't just magically develop an intrinsic desire for self-preservation or power. Furthermore, economists argue that a sudden, massive explosion of software innovation without encountering real-world economic friction is just highly implausible.
Plus, we have to remember that AI doesn't live in some magic digital void. It requires massive physical infrastructure. Scaling up hardware from 10,000 to 1 million GPUs requires building literal power plants, which takes years. On top of that, companies are already hitting data walls, meaning they are struggling to find enough high-quality unstructured data to train on. These real-world friction points might just act as a natural speed bump, forcing a much more measured pace of progress.
But what if the skeptics are wrong? What if those aggressive forecasts are actually right? We can't just cross our fingers and hope for the best. That's exactly why Kokotajlo and others are pushing for a roadmap called Plan A. It's a pragmatic strategy designed to ensure humanity stays firmly in the driver's seat as we navigate the rapid development of advanced AI.
So what's in Plan A? Well, it demands fierce international regulation and total transparency from AI labs. It centers heavily on compute governance. This essentially means tracking and regulating massive hardware clusters the exact same way international watchdogs track nuclear materials. The ultimate goal here is to force a halt to these secretive corporate sprints and prioritize rigorous safety testing above absolutely everything else.
It also tackles the massive economic shockwaves heading our way. To offset insane wealth concentration and widespread job displacement, some models within these discussions propose a truly mind-bending citizen dividend. We're talking upwards of $10 million per person per year. I know, it sounds wild, but it's a provocative idea designed to ensure the astronomical wealth generated by superintelligence actually benefits the public, rather than just being hoarded by a few megacorporations.
As we wrap up this explainer, the question we're left with is monumental. How do we harness the unimaginable benefits of AI without sacrificing our safety or our agency? Steering this technology isn't just a job for a handful of tech billionaires in Silicon Valley. It requires all of us. Policymakers, researchers, and the public must engage in informed, nuanced discussion rather than just giving into fear. Because if we are literally building the last invention humanity will ever need to make, shouldn't we all have a say in how it works?